Welcome back to Of White Hairs and Cricket. We are looking at some quotes from the story. All this bothered me much more than I let anyone know. When the argument started, I would say all the shouting was giving me a headache and stalk out to the steps of the compound. My guilty conscience, squirming uncontrollably, could not witness the quarrels. So this is talking about when the grandmother and the parents would argue. And although the grandmother lives in the same house, she cooks separately because she thinks that the food they feed him is bad. She would rather give him curry, which is, of course, a traditional Indian food. But the narrator, because he's not used to eating this, can't digest it properly. So he has stomach pains after eating it. And the parents and the grandmother Mamaji argue about this. And this bothers the narrator. He feels guilty because he was the one that caused the fights, and he wants to escape the house until the arguments are over. I wanted to weep for myself for not being able to hug Daddy when I wanted to, and for not ever saying thank you for cricket in the morning, and pigeons, and bicycles, and dreams, and for all the white hairs that I was powerless to stop. What a strong last sentence in this story, so powerful. He is feeling desperately sorry for himself. He's so sorry that he wanted to weep, and he misses the innocence of his childhood, and he never said thank you to his dad for playing cricket. He misses the pigeons, he misses the bicycles, and all the white hairs that he was not able to stop. And of course, this means he was not able to stop the aging. 1 minute. Yes, boys. Again, I guess that is the pitfall of videoing at school. Students, come along. So, this is the last sentence of the story, and it perfectly sums up the boy's experience of coming of age. He has moved from being an innocent child to having adult worries about death. Also, he is discouraged to show or share his emotions. So he says, I wanted to weep for myself. He doesn't say, I weep for myself. He doesn't say, I actually cry, because he is encouraged to keep his emotions to himself. He is filled with grief that his father is no longer the young man he once was, and he is, mentioned many times before, scared about his aging process and the fact that he's going to die, and he can't share these or show these feelings. He feels guilty and he wants to cry for the words he has left unsaid. He wants to cry for never saying thank you. And you know what? This is pretty typical of children. They don't even think about saying thank you because it's not even a realization for them that they should be thankful for something. It's just natural, you know. Your dad plays with you. Your mum looks after you, she plays with you, she cooks for you. When you're a child, you would probably never even think that it was necessary to say thank you for this. And this is what he is realizing now. He learns how he should appreciate his father now and the moments that they spend together now, because someday he'll no longer be with him. So he can't go back and change his past, but he can change the future, and he can now say thank you and continue to spend some quality time with his dad. This is the father talking. I just found this advert he's talking about in the newspaper. I think it's perfect. He waited for Mum's reaction. The silence was unsurprising. This is talking about failed promises. Every week, his dad says, yep, this will be the week I find a dream job. This will be the week I go to work and make some money. He's extremely optimistic about every job advert he finds, and he makes plans. He decides he's going to buy a toaster, he's going to send his son to America, and he promises a better future for the family. But his mother knows that this will not happen. She has been let down so many times before that she's lost hope that he'll ever get a job. And she knows that each time it's going to lead to disappointment, so she doesn't get excited anymore. And the son can see that his mother reacts like this because his mother's silence is unsurprising to him. But his father still stays cheerful, still hopes and believes that every week he's going to get that dream job. So, the beginning, the white hare was trapped in the tweezers. The first sentence of the story sets the scene for two of the major themes in the story, which is aging and the father-son relationship. The plucking of the white hairs has a negative connotation, and we assume this is the case throughout the story. So the white hare was trapped in the tweezers, and the young son does not want to pluck the hairs. He wants to be outside playing with his friends, playing cricket. So it seems like a boring chore for him. And the ending. We looked at this quote a few slides ago. It's the last sentence in the story, and it's very touching because it sums up the boy's experience of growing up in a very emotional ending. He regrets not spending more time with his father and saying what he truly feels. He learns that he should make the most of his time as nothing lasts forever. And the end also includes the two themes from the beginning, which effectively concludes the story and brings it all together again. And I think that the message for the reader is a strong one, and that is be thankful for those that you love in your family, and tell them thank you and tell them that you love them, because they will not be around forever. Some symbolism in the story. Obviously, the white hairs symbolize time and death, and the plucking of these white hairs relates to a desperate attempt to hold back time. Represents the father's age and his denial of the aging process. The narrator is living with someone who refuses to accept the inevitability of the aging process and death, which stops him from realizing that he is growing up and is no longer a child. His father wants him to eliminate the hairs, completely get rid of them, and then that will magically mean that he is not growing old. But what both of them refuse to admit is that by the next week, more of the white hairs will have grown, and getting rid of them won't stop them coming back, and it won't stop time, and it won't stop the father getting older. Cricket is also symbolic in this story. The recurrence of cricket, which appears a few times in the story, symbolizes the narrator's longing to be a child again. It symbolizes his childhood, and when he stops playing it, he begins to grow up and lose his innocence. Cricket was very dear to him, and he describes it as leaving his life like it was a person, not simply an activity, and this shows his emotional attachment to it. Remember that cricket is a very traditional sport in India. Viraf's father is also symbolic in a small way, and his terminal illness symbolizes death, and this makes the narrator aware of his own father's death. Some themes. We have aging, the father-son relationship, death, and coming of age. So aging. He realizes that he can't stop his father from aging and eventually dying, and he learns to accept this as an inevitable reality. From this, he also learns of how he should appreciate his father and the moments they spend together, because someday they will no longer be together. They will have been parted by death. The father-son relationship is quite clear throughout this story. The father and son used to have a strong bond through their cricket games, and they played regularly every Sunday. But after the father grows older, he's too tired to play cricket anymore, and instead the young boy has to pluck his white hairs. And the bond between them begins to deteriorate, and they become more distant. Death. The theme of death is obviously present throughout the story. While there is no actual death in the story, it does hover on the periphery throughout. It hovers at the side of the story, and it's definitely in everybody's thoughts. Also, there is the death of the boy's childhood and the death of his innocence. Coming of age. This is a coming of age story, which means that the story focuses on the growth of the protagonist, moving from childhood to adulthood. And it focuses on the internal monologue of the narrator, rather than any exciting action. His epiphany shows his turning point, realizing that death will come to us all. And because of this, he loses the innocence of childhood. And his innocence of childhood is an unawareness of any kind of death in his life. And some essay questions that you might like to think of for this story. In what ways does Mistry strikingly portray the relationship between father and son in Of White Hairs in Cricket? This seems like a pretty clear essay question, and one that, I don't want to play Russian roulette, but one that really might come up in an essay question on the exam if they do choose Of White Hairs in Cricket, because the father-son relationship is so important in this story. How does Mistry vividly convey the reaction of the protagonist to his epiphany in Of White Hairs in Cricket? Basically, how does the author show, using emotions and emotional language, how the narrator reacts to his epiphany? How does Mistry vividly convey the narrator's thoughts and feelings in Of White Hairs in Cricket? How does Mistry make you feel sympathetic to the narrator in Of White Hairs in Cricket? Do you sympathize with him because he's a boy of similar age to you, and you have had an epiphany about becoming an adult? You have had your coming of age story already, you know, you've moved on from childhood to adulthood, so you can understand him more, you can connect with him more. How does Mistry vividly convey what it is like to come of age in Of White Hairs in Cricket? How does Mistry memorably depict the experience of growing up in Of White Hairs in Cricket? And that is it. Good luck and enjoy.